to just dive right in. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to put me on your phone, on your iPad, on a TV, I don't know. Put me to the side somewhere and then open up your computer screen and open Tinkercad and have a blank work plane there. So just go with me here. So put me to the side, put me somewhere where you can still hear and listen, but I want your full screen dedicated to your Tinkercad work plane, okay? For real. Like go ahead and do that. I'll wait. Okay. So we're just going to dive right in, and I promise you it'll be okay. We'll come back to it and we'll learn together. So I want you to think about a coffee mug. What does a coffee mug look like? What features does it have? Think about that coffee mug because that's what we're going to make first. So a few things to know about Tinkercad. First of all, you are working in a 3D environment, not a 2D environment. And so that means you are going to need to look at it at your design from the front, from the bottom, from the top, from all the sides to make sure that we are creating something that makes sense. Okay, so use your little cube to move yourself around. You can click and drag it around, or you can click, 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 and it'll move you around. Now, we're moving that around a whole lot, so sometimes that means that our screen might look all wonky. If you get to a place where you're like, how the heck did I get here? Press that home button, doop, and it's going to put you right back at the place that you want to be, your default view. Second thing you need to know, on the right side, this is your shape menu. It starts off by showing you your basic shapes, and then you have a ton of things here that you can kind of look through. You also have a search bar. Okay, that's all you need to know for now. So coffee mug. Coffee mug is what shape? What shape should we start with? Think about that and go ahead and drag in that base shape onto your work plane. What shape should we start with to make a coffee mug? Now, I'll be honest, I'm going to do it one way. This isn't the only way to do it. This is just the way that I find the most fun to get my kids automatically engaged. And I'm also, while they're completing this activity, I'm evaluating their skills. What can they do well? What do they need a little bit of help with? Um, Okay, coffee mug. Probably I'm going to start with a cylinder. Drag a cylinder onto my screen there. Now, this is kind of small and also can't really hold any liquid in that cylinder, so I might need to resize first. So to resize, click on your shape. You're going to see lots of little white dots show up. These dots help you modify the length and the width, and then this, they're not dots, they're squares. This square up here helps you modify the height. Okay, so there's my resize tools. Now you'll see when I resize it that these numbers come up. These are the measurements in millimeters. So I can click on that box and I can automatically resize it there if I have an exact measurement that I want. But anyway, so I got my coffee mug shape. I got a good cylinder. Um, Also, if you can hear the cicadas going off in my backyard, I apologize. I am using a microphone to kind of help that, but oh my god, they're loud right this second. Anyway, I've got something that looks like a coffee mug size here, but it still can't hold liquid. So I need to somehow make this shape hold liquid. Take a second and just kind of think, what might I be able to do to put a hole in this, essentially, is what I need. Usually I'll give my students a few minutes to see if they can click around and figure it out because, oh my goodness, if there's one thing these kids can do is click around and figure things out. All right, so I need to put a hole in here to hold liquid. You'll see these two shapes here that are grayed out. These are holes. So this is a cube hole, this is a cylinder hole. All shapes can be holes. See how that option comes up there? I can just click hole and it can become a hole. But these shapes are conveniently placed here as holes by default. So I've got a solid cylinder, I got a hole. I am going to make this hole around about the same size as the cylinder. I'm going to expand it so that it's in the center, but there's still kind of a ring around there. I can get very precise with this as well. I can select both shapes and I can use my align tool to align it into the center. There we go. And then I need to move it a little bit there. There we go. So now I know it's exactly in the center. So cool. I have a hole inside a cylinder. So if I want the hole to actually cut it, I'm going to select everything, which I do just by dragging over it, or you can hit Command A, Control A to select everything. And then you're going to use this little mergey shape looking thing and you're going to hit Group. Alright, ooh, look, I've got a hole now, but it will not hold liquid. It will just go straight through. So now how do I fix that? This is another place where I'll pause and I'll ask my students to click around and see if they can figure it out. I'm going to hit undo, which just undoes undoes that grouping there. I can also hit this button here to ungroup. So what I think I need to do is I need to pull this cylinder hole up a bit so that it leaves a solid bottom, which will hold liquid. Um, that's where this teeny tiny little black triangle comes into play. So this teeny tiny black triangle, which I swear Tinkercad could make a tiny little bit bigger to help us out a little bit, but that's besides the point. This is what will help you move things along the z-axis. So we have our x and y-axis, right? But we're in a 3D environment, so now we have a z-axis. And so I'm going to pull that up. See this number here? It says 3. This number right here. This is how far I'm pulling it off of the work plane. So I've got about a 3 millimeter rise up off the work plane. I like to make my walls about 5 millimeter, but this is just personal choice. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to select everything again, and then I'm going to group it. And in theory, this time the hole should not go all the way through. Instead, I should have a solid bottom. Perfect. Okay, so now I have a vessel that can hold liquid, but it is not yet a coffee mug. A coffee mug has a very distinct second part, right? We need something to hold the coffee mug, so I need a handle. This is another place where I'll pause and I'll say to my students, okay, click around, figure it out. How do I add a handle? Because there's not one right way to do this. I am going to have to use the hole feature again, but I can approach this many different ways. So click around and see how you might add a handle. Okay, I am going to approach it this way. I'm going to take one of these tubes, and you can either use the tube or the ring thing. This is also there. Remember, there's not one right way to do this, so actually you could do it any way you want to. I'm going to make a large ring, and then I'm going to go over and I'm going to use my box hole. Now these holes, I want you to see them as cutting tools. They are no longer shapes, they are cutting tools. So wherever that box is over, it's going to cut and make that disappear when I group it. So I've got about half of it cut off. I'm creating a macaroni noodle shape thing. Then I'm going to select it and group it, and when I do that, it's going to remove the part that the cube was over. And I've got a nice little macaroni noodle looking thing. Okay, so now I'm going to look at some other tools. See these arrows that pop up? There's one on that side too. These are different ways that I can rotate my macaroni noodle. So I'm going to stand my noodle up 90 degrees so it's nice and straight. You can see when I stood it up, some of it's floating below that work plane. That's no bueno for me, so I'm going to move it up, 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 up. Now it's at 0, it's touching the work plane. I'm going to move it a little higher. And now that I've done that, I can see clearly this is going to be too big for my mug, so I'm going to shrink that down a little bit, and then I'm going to push it into the side of my coffee mug. Beautiful. It's a little too far in there, huh? Okay, let's try that. There we go. Alright, so now I have a mug with a handle. Can it hold coffee? Yes, it can. Can I hold it on the side with the handle? Yes, I can. Alright, so that is how I get my students just to dive right into Tinkercad without overcomplicating, overthinking things. It has them practice a lot of different skills while they're doing this activity, and it has them use their critical thinking skills and their just natural ability to master technology um, in a way that gets them just diving right in. So now you have dove right into Tinkercad. Let's make some cool stuff.